For some, it's sacrilege. For others, it's pure magic. Today, we're talking about annotating books, and we're going to demystify it with the fantastic Deshea of Books with Desh. Before we get into today's episode, I do want to let you know, please give me some grace. I was just at the tail end of pneumonia and losing my voice entirely when we recorded this episode. So you may find that my voice is a little deeper or a little scratchier than it typically is. Please bear with me. This episode is so good. And Deshea gives so many great tips for annotating. And as someone who does not like annotating my books at all, I kind of want to start trying it because of this conversation. So please join me in welcoming Deshea to the podcast. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast contains mature content intended for adult audiences only. Hello, Deshea. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. So if you could start by just giving everybody a bit of insight into you and tell us about your adult reading journey.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So I read a lot as a child, kind of fell off during college. And then I came back after college and after studying for education, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm ready to be a reader again. So I picked up 3 books and instantly fell right back in love. It was almost like I never left. So I read pretty much everything, but romance has my heart.
I love romance too. I want to say I almost exclusively read romance. And I mean, I've tried other ones. I think recently I read Murderbot because the show was coming out and I found it entertaining. But yeah, romance is always my go-to. Like I need the love. I need the angst sometimes and the drama. And like, I just need that fluff. So yeah, I'm all about that. But you do something that is, I think, a little different than a lot of the bookish content creators. You do some pretty extensive annotating. And that is, like I was telling you before we hit record, that is something that I am like, at least historically, have been very against. Like when I was in college, I would highlight stuff and maybe like write little notes, right? Because it's a textbook. Like I do not care about this book. But then when it comes to like my trophies, I don't know, like I feel a little nervous. And also I think it has to do with growing up not having a lot of books. And I would be borrowing them from the library or borrowing them from like, I grew up in a cult. And so they had like their little library of like approved books. That's a whole other story for a whole other day. But that was.
So let's just change the topic because what?
Let's talk about cults. Yeah, I know. I have a podcast with my sister called Two Sisters and a Cult. We produced it from about 2019-ish to 2021. So that is there for if anybody wants to like hear that story, it's somewhere in there. But yes. And so they had like their approved, I'm using like quotes here, their approved list of books because it was a fundamentalist Christian group. But like I remember even like sneaking some of the books that like kind of slipped through where there was like hand holding and passionate kissing and like, oh my God, I'm titillated. And then I would like pass it on to my sister and be like, you need to read this book. Right? So yeah, like, and so I never really wrote in the books. And then when I got my own, I was like, I don't want to do it. And so I ended up they have these like highlighter thin, almost like sticky notes that you can use to highlight without actually using a highlighter. And so I did that for a while, but you take it to a whole nother level. So how did you get into annotating your books?
So I think it kind of started in high school. I had a dual enrollment class. So like you get a high school and a college credit for it. And he was the coolest teacher I've ever met. Like he was kind of like the weird teacher of the school, but like in the best way. And he would have us write in the margins of our books because they were books we had to purchase. So one of our assignments each night, whatever our reading was, we had to write a question or a deeper thought into the margin every night. So I don't think I really thought of it as so scandalous because it was something I'm like, oh, well, this cool teacher's telling me to do it. So I would. So up until that point, I'd never done it before. And then, like I said, reading kind of fell off. And then when I came back, I remember the first book I started reading when I got back into reading was To All the Boys I Loved Before. And I don't even know where I got the tabs from. But it's funny because if you look back, that book has maybe 6 tabs in it, and that's it. It grew from there. I started out writing in pencil because, like you, I'm like, in his class, I did the same thing. We always wrote in pencil. So I was like, well, if I don't like it, I can erase it. If I still want to try to sell it, I'll erase it the best I can and try to get rid of it. And then something kind of switched along the way where it was more about just my journey and process with the book. And I was just like, I spent the money on it. If I want to mess it up, quote unquote, I kind of can. And it's funny because when you said that you have your books or your trophies, I have some books that I did not write in. When I read Becoming by Michelle Obama, I would not write in it. And I can't even explain why. It just felt so important that I'm like, I don't feel like I need to put anything into it. So there's like 1,000 tabs in it, but there's not any ink. Whereas I'm currently reading and I'm like, with my pink pen, like all in for the book, and I'm like drawing the hearts and doing the thing. So it's definitely been a process for me. Like it hasn't always been the same, but I do think there is a place for everyone in this space. I don't think like mine is a little bit of extreme, but I think everyone can find something in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what do you think are some of those benefits when you're highlighting or tabbing a book rather than just, like, reading through it?
I feel like I get like a deeper connection in the books that I annotate versus the ones that I don't. I think it's because as someone who reads a lot of books, like especially on Kindle Unlimited, I'm like da 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 next. And I'm just like boom, boom, boom. Like I can read so many books that way. But with the books that I'm reading physically and actually annotating, like it's kind of more of a deeper dive because I am having to slow down and I am making those like notes and adding the tabs in it. And it's more of me like actively reading instead of passively reading. Not saying that you can't do that without annotating, but for me, I do find that there was a difference with like my retention and like my memory of what I actually read.
Yeah, it kinda sounds like the pace is different, right? So, like, with
Yes.
your Kindle Unlimited ones or the ones you're reading, like, digitally or even, like, audiobooks. I mean, I listen to audiobooks at 2 speed because my brain needs to, like, hear it fast, otherwise I'm like,
Right.
"Woo," like, we're going off on another
Mhm.
tangent in my brain.
Mhm.
And so, like, those, I'll be like, "Oh, wait, I wanted to highlight that. Oh, I'm listening to it. Never mind, moving on," right? So it's like, you kind of can miss a lot of those elements. But, yeah, I think
Yes.
about the books where I have my highlight stickies, and I've got my tabs, and I'm like, "Oh, this is a good one," or "This is where the sex started," or, like, "This is the things that I'm tabbing." Those are
Right.
the ones where I'm like, oh, like, I think the last one that I tabbed, and I've read other ones physically since then, was Church Girl by Naima Simone. And, like, that
Okay.
one I found, especially having grown up fundamentalist Christian, and this girl, her father's a pastor, and he wants her to marry his deacon, and she's like, "I'm running away on my wedding day," and just, like, a lot of her healing from the religious upbringing, and she still was like, "I love God, and I wanna do good, and I wanna be a good person, but that is not for me," like, and just kind of
Mm.
her reawakening to herself was just so resonant that I was like, "Tab, tab, tab, highlight, highlight, highlight," and so, like, thinking about that book, when people mention it, it's like, it kind of has a little bit more of a deeper feeling to me and a more of a connection because the pace was a little different than, say, a book I read that's like a novella that's just like a quick read on Kindle Unlimited. So, yeah, I can understand that for sure.
And I feel like when you're talking about audiobooks, 'cause I love audiobooks and it gives me such like something to do. I remember one of the first audiobooks I listened to was Daisy Jones and the Six, which is one of my all-time favorite books. And I'm listening to it, and like you said, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I need to highlight this," and I didn't have it. So I actually went back and bought it, and I had to do a reread just to go back and annotate it because I'm like, I love it so much, but there are some things that you just connect to on a deeper level, and those are the things that I'm like, "Tab, tab," like, I completely get that. And I also wanna say because when you said, like, annotating is sacrilege, even though annotating does really mean that you wrote in it, to me, if you tab books, I mean, it's a form of annotation for me. Like, being able to like tab them and go back. Cause some people won't even do that, right? They're like scared that the tabs will mess up the pages. So give yourself some credit because sometimes that's all I'm doing. Some books that are like so filled up, I'm like, there might not even be any writing in it.
That's good to know, right? Like, I don't have to write in it, it's okay. I can still just have it and tab it up, and it'll be good.
Absolutely.
And so now I'm curious, you mentioned rereading, right? So, like, I did that with or I might do that, I should say. I don't reread books, and a lot of it has to do with, 1, there's so many good books that I can read that I'm like, "I wanna read that next." I'm a mood reader, and so, yeah, I just like, I'm always on to the next when I finish a book. But I think about the books that I, like, 5-starred in 2020 or 2021, and
Mhm.
I am not that same person or that same reader
Yeah.
as I was then, and so I get nervous that I'll be, like, judging past Alesia for, like, what she 5-starred. I'm like, "Oh god, how dare you do that?" Like, there are so many better books. But one that I'm considering doing is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan because I started it on Audible. Nope. I started it on Spotify, and then I ran out of my 15 hours because I had already
15
listened to
hours
another
long.
book, but I own it on physical, and so then I just started wherever I left off, and I blew through the book in one day, right? So listening to, like,
Mhm.
70% of it, and then I was like, "Well, I have to finish it now because I need to know what happens." And that's one where, like, I would wanna go back and, like, maybe write in or maybe heart some things or, like, some little stickers. But there are a lot of options for people. So if people are like, "Okay, what all goes into annotating? Can you give us, like, a breakdown of what are some options for us from very basic to maybe a little more of your extreme stuff that you have?" I know you do, like, full cover page redesigns, and,
Yeah.
like, I just think it's so fascinating. So from the very basic all the way up through the more extensive stuff.
So I love your like idea with Before I Let Go because I haven't read that one, but I've heard great things about it. So I think a reread is a really safe place to start with an annotation because you know that you love it, especially if you're considering rereading it. And then 2, you already know kind of the elements that you would want to pull going into it. So a reread is a great way to start. Like you said, I do like the whole like I usually make an annotation key at the front and I'll like put things that go with the book and I put what each tab means. And a lot of people think I do that at the beginning, but that's actually the very last thing I do because I don't actually know what the elements are until I actually read it. So like I'll like pick colors and things and then I'll find out I'm like, "Oh, I actually need this color for something else now because of that." So, like, the title me picking out what I'm gonna annotate is, like, kind of a process that I go through as I read the book. So, when I first started annotating, every time I picked up a book, I used the same colors each and every time. Every time they meant the same thing. So, pink was always love, blue was sad, green was angry, orange was, like, me making connections, and that was really easy across books because I'd grab a book, and when I saw the colors, I knew what they meant. It was a lot easier for my mom back then too because she reads most of my books, so she would know, like, pink, blah, 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 and then one day I came to her and I said, "Hey, I've decided to change my annotation style, and I'm gonna match all the tabs to the color of the cover, and each time they're gonna mean something different," and she's just looking at me like, "And why would you do that?" And honestly, it was more about me and, like, the aesthetic of it. Like, I've been very into, like, anything I love, romanticizing it. So I'm like, "You know what'd be fun? If I bought all these different color tabs." Actually, I actually started buying the different colors because I would run out of pink so much because it was love. So then I would be buying, like, all these sets of tabs just to get the pink, and I'd have a stack of this many that I didn't need for the pink. So that's actually why I started. So, but then it became more of a aesthetic feel. But like I said earlier, I feel like if you just wanna start out, just put the tabs in there. There's nothing wrong with that, like, you're able to reference back to whatever you wanna see and, like, find things easily. Adding in pencil, for me, I like pen, highlighter, anything I can find at this point. But there are people that, really want to make sure their books are still in good condition. One tip I have is to turn to the back of the book and use, like, the acknowledgments page to test out pens to see how they're going to like, are they gonna bleed through? Are they too dark? Because that's happened to me a lot. Like, I'll pick up a highlighter and I think it's gonna be, like, a nice light blue, and it's actually very, dark. And I'm just like, so do I commit and mess up the whole book, quote unquote, or do I switch and now there's just one random dark line and the rest are lighter? So I like to use that acknowledgments page just to see like what I'm getting into. One of my newer favorite things to do is put like the little emoji reaction stickers in. Like, it's so funny to me, like to be turning and just see like the little emoji of whatever I was feeling. So it's kind of fun to get like crafty with it. I told somebody, I feel like at this point, reading for me is kind of like making a scrapbook, especially the ones I like. They become like this page of like stickers and Spotify codes, like with playlists. And like I have like the mini Polaroid camera. So like I'll print out pictures that remind me of the book and like stick them in. There's a whole world where you can start out very simple, but it can get very extra really fast.
I love that.
Really fast.
Get really extra. I mean, and right, like that's your choice as the reader. You get to decide what that looks and feels like. And I was talking to a friend about annotating, and she was like, I don't know, it feels like homework. But I like how you described it, that it's more like scrapbooking, that it's more of like this is part of the hobby rather than, oh
Right.
no, I'm doing a whole report on this and I have to annotate every single book a certain way, whether it's like for my Instagram or for whatever. Like, no, it's about you enjoying the book however you see fit, that there's no one right way to do it. And so I really
Exactly.
like that you take that approach because I think that a lot, especially as bookish content creators, this can feel almost like a job sometimes. And yes, for some it might be, right? Like you might get sponsorships or you might have like collaborations. But the actual reading, I feel like we have to try to hold so much to this is for fun. Otherwise, I think that gets reflected in our work. What are your thoughts or feelings around that?
And I definitely agree. And I feel like most of us, even the ones that are in sponsorships and doing these things, you didn't get into it for that. Probably not. Like you probably got into it because you loved reading and there weren't people around you that maybe showed that same love and you wanted to find your space, right? And I feel like as you make content and you get further away from that, it kind of like loses its joy. So I think staying close to that is important. And I mean, you make a good point, like we talked about before, that I started my Etsy shop. And this has been the worst reading period I've ever had because I'm so into the research phase and I'm so like obsessed with it that that's all I've been doing. So I've only read last month, I maybe read 6 books when usually my average is like 10 or 12, which I mean, 6 books is still good, but it's a lot less for me. So I'm like, I've got to find a balance with that and figuring out how to still keep that joy while still trying to create things and still trying to post content and things. So I agree that it's very important. And then something else you said about that it can feel more like school to annotate. I'm like, I think I'm sure it could because, like you said, in college, like we're highlighting all the things, but the things I'm writing in these books is so non-academic. It's not even funny. I don't know if you've seen like my reels where I say, "Oh, you're so smart because you annotate," and like quotations, and then like I just start flipping through the annotations, and it's literally me like writing "hot" in the margins or "yes" or like I'm like it's so not serious that I feel like that's why I don't associate it with like being academic because I'm writing literally the goofiest things, especially if it's a book I know my mom's getting. I'm like, "Sorry, mom," in the like in the margins. Like, it's so lighthearted, but also so me. So, I don't know.
I love that though. Like you get to just like have fun with it. And I think that really is the point, right? Is like one, you get to decide, but then also make it your own. What are those inner thoughts that you have as you're reading it? I even think about like some of the stuff that I will highlight in my Kindle and I highlight and like make a note. Now I want to go back because like there was one where I think I just did, like, the dead emoji, like, the skeleton emoji, just because I was like, "Oh my god, I'm dead, this is wild, like, I can't believe that this happened." Or, like, the things I'll highlight and be like, "Oh, be for real right now," right? Like, those are my inner thoughts, and that's what I write, and so thinking about that and then taking that into the annotation, I feel like is one makes it more like you, but then gives you a
Yeah,
lot less pressure for it to be like, "This is my entire thought piece on this one line," right?
right.
Like, it doesn't have to be like that,
This is my thesis.
right?
Like,
No, thank
no.
you. So you mentioned a few of the, like, basic, like, tabs, you mentioned some pens. Is there anything for those that are, like, kinda wanting to try it and test it out? I know oh my goodness, I was homeschooled, and so we used erasable pens nonstop, and I'm, like, just now starting to get a little more into erasable pens because I have a Rocketbook notebook where you can erase it
Okay.
and then write in it again and stuff like that. So I'm, like, just now starting to get back into some erasable pens, but what are some ones or products that you're really, really liking? And I know you do have, or at least you have, and you can let me know if I'm incorrect here, some starter packs for annotating for
Mhm.
people who are like, where do I begin? Like, you have all of those stuff, like, here's a pack to get started. But what are some of those
Right.
products that we might want to consider? One, if we're like, I don't know if I want to do this long term, I want to test it out. And then I want to be able to like erase it if I need to. What are some of those products first?
So I don't really have a recommendation for an erasable pen just because I'm also a teacher. So I'm like very like it's just final. Like we just scribble on things and go. So like I have the pens that I grade with, and those are my favorite ones for writing, but they're not actually good for annotating, even though I use them anyways. So don't actually that's not actually a recommendation. However, any pen that has like a fine tip that doesn't give off a lot of like pigment is good because I like the paper mate enjoys, but they're so pigmented that they bleed through. Versus I don't even know what they're called. They're like a gray pen and they have different colors, but they're very thin tipped. So I've started using those in the copies of books that I'm selling because I know they're not gonna bleed through for other people. Whereas I don't mind them. I don't want that to be in somebody else's copy that they're buying from me. But you're right, I do have like kind of like a starter kit because most of the tabs that you buy, they come in like a set of 20, right? And that's like a commitment. But I have like different annotation bookmarks and it has laid out just the colors and then like what each color means. And then I can also edit that for people. So I had a friend of mine, she likes romance, but she was like, hey, can you take off? Like I have a space for additional at the bottom. So she's like, hey, can you change additional to funny and then change something else to I don't like that? And I'm like, sure. And she told me what color she wanted. So she wanted all pink. And I'm like, okay, I just did different color pinks for her and like matched it to the vibe of what she wanted. And it was really fun because we're in a book club together. So the last book that we read together, she brought in her bookmark with her tabs in it. And she's not an annotator. This was actually one of the first books that she annotated. And she was just talking about like how easy the process was for her. And it made me feel good because I was like, I'm happy that I made it more accessible where it's not daunting. Because I think when you see the tabs and it's like, okay, but what do I do? And I'm like, okay, just put this tab. You feel sad, just lay this tab down and you can write in it or you cannot. So I do have like just genre bookmarks. I have romance, thriller, horror, general, fantasy, and dark romance. And then I actually just released some newer ones for summer. So like I have a summer slasher, kind of like nod to like the horror slasher camp vibes. And then I made one for summer reading. So like just kind of like the cutesy, girly summer vibes. So really excited about those because those are like things that I love. So just getting to share that with other people has been really cool. And then I do have like a more advanced kit that comes with the annotation reaction stickers that have like the emojis that you can add in, and then like a book review sticker that you can put at the end when you're finished. So there are just different ways to be able to try it out just to see if you like it. Another thing, you can always get a book secondhand. So if like you don't want to write in your new copy, like get a book that, is cheaper at the store and be able to try it out. So there's definitely ways.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to the thrift shop, there's like tons of books there that you can use to like test out pens and stuff like that. Or even I'm thinking about like your free little library that you have locally, right? There might be a book in there that's like, no one is gonna pick this up. Like, let me test
Right.
some things out in there. So yeah, it's so funny you mentioned like the different categories. I feel like I'm such a chaotic annotator at the moment. Like I want to try to like we'll see. Maybe I'll get better. I don't know. Who knows? We'll get an update soon. And this is just how my brain works, that I don't use the same color for the same vibes or the same things. I just go down the line of, like, using each of them equally, and I'm like, "All right, next tab, alright, it's gonna be, like, just underneath the other one, even if it's on the opposite page, and then I'll just highlight with the other one." Like, it's so chaotic, and, like, if you saw it, you'd be like, "What does any of this mean?" It means nothing. It just means I like this spot or they be fucking, right? Like, that's all it
Yes.
means. So, yes, you're giving me lots of ideas, especially with the, like, starter packs of ways to, like, "Alright, let me just get something and then test it out and see how it feels, and then I can go from there and then make decisions how I want to."
I love that. Just because I was like, no, this can't be that chaotic. And then you said, I'm like, actually, you know what? That is a little, that is a little wild. But I still support it. Like,
It
full support.
it's a start, right? Yeah, it's a and
Right.
it's just a matter of I have these tabs, and I think personally, I'm like, "I don't want 2 pinks in a row. I want it to be the next," like, it's just how my brain works. I'm like, "It needs to be a c" nope, it's wild.
Now, you know what? It actually, though, aesthetically, I bet that's gorgeous because I have some books that, like, I'll get started thinking I'll need a certain topic or whatever, and I only end up using a few of them. So there just might be a couple, but your way, it's all throughout. You don't have to worry about that.
Yes. Still a little chaotic because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but it's
I
okay.
mean, I love it.
Oh, that's so fun. So you mentioned that you have these different categories that people can, like, start for your starter packs. Are there any books that are like, "This doesn't really work for annotating," and then ones that are like, "I highly recommend that you annotate these kinds of books?"
The hard thing about it is I don't know that I don't wanna annotate it until I go into it. So, like, I remember I started reading what's that book called? Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I don't know if you've read it. It's not romance. But anyways, I thought it was gonna be so fun. In the first chapter, I'm like, "Oh my goodness." And I'm like, "Oh, this is so deep." And then after that, I hated it. Like really hated it. And I'm like, "I'm not gonna keep annotating this because I'm not having a good time." And I actually ended up switching to audio just to get through it. So, any book that you're obviously not loving, unless you wanna hate annotate it, that's also kind of
I mean,
like, especially if, like, they're just making you angry and it's like you're just using all of your angry tabs, that I actually support that. But just a book that you're genuinely not enjoying, because 'cause you're not gonna enjoy the process of it. Any books that you love or, like, especially ones that are very, like, hyped up that you're gonna be able to, like, enjoy too, those are good ones to start with. One of my favorite books that I've annotated was A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. I had the best time with that one, like, making all of the tabs match the color to the book. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's, like, blue, and it's purple, and it's yellow, and it's gorgeous. And, like, getting to choose all the tabs for that, just, like, that whole experience, top tier. It's hard because I feel like that answer depends on the reader and, like, what kind of books you do enjoy. But, like, whatever I typically enjoy, I make sure that I get ready to annotate it because more than likely I'm gonna enjoy it.
that's really interesting. So, do you have, like, a particular spot, like, that you're typically reading that it makes sense to be annotating? Because, like, I know for me, I'm reading on the go constantly. My kids are in MMA literally 5 days a week, and so my husband and
Wow.
I switch off because we have 2 boys. They're oh my goodness, by the time this goes live, they're gonna be 11 and 8, which is so weird, but they're 11 and
Uh-huh.
8, and they're both in MMA, and, like, one goes 4 nights a week, the other one goes 3 nights a week, but it ends up being 5 total, which is just a lot. My husband and I switch it off, but, like, if I'm there reading, one, I don't want people like, the other parents judging me based on, like, what's on the cover of my book, so
Right.
I'll sometimes read on my phone or I'll read on my Kindle, but is there, like, a spot that you're like, "Alright, I got my annotation stickers and my stuff here, my pens," and, like, behind me, I created this little, like, couch spot, and it's right next to my bookshelf, and I just need, like, a little
Wow.
side table now with, like, my stuff. But my kids mostly sit there when they need to do work, and I'm like, "You could just sit and read, stop bugging your brother,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna finish working," right? Like, typical mom moments. But yeah, do you have like a spot and like your little station, or do you take it on the go with you? What does that kind of look like for you?
My spot has recently changed. So I have like my reading nook area, which is in another room now that I've started doing Etsy more. And I'm like, I need like a space for all my machines. So that's where I am currently. And because I've been using like the tabs to make other people's sets, my tabs have moved in here too. And then my pens have as well, because this is kind of like my new area. So usually if I start a book to annotate, I'll just grab whatever I'm going to be using and then it kind of stays with the book. So wherever my current read is, I do not know. The set of tabs I'm using is like my bookmark. And then the pen is also just kind of thrown in there too, because I'm just using one pen at the moment. But yeah, I do kind of miss having it in there where I was reading it, because I'm like, I'll sit down and I'm like, oh, my tabs where I need, or like yesterday, I was reading outside and I ran out of whatever color meant love. And I'm like, fine. So then I got up from my spot and came back in to go get it. So, and then I just grabbed several. I'm like, okay, this one looks like it matches in this one. So that way I don't have to come back in. So it's kind of shifted. So I just have to go find them. But I will take things on the go. Like we went on vacation and I picked 2 sets of tabs that kind of matched, that would kind of go with all of the books that I bought, just in case I finished or I didn't feel like reading something. I wasn't bringing just too many where it didn't make sense. And then I think I just, instead of having like all of the pens, I might have taken one. Actually, one of the books, I think when I got back, I actually highlighted, because I was like, I didn't feel like having to keep up with like pens and things. So I waited till I got back and kind of like reflected over it and went with it. So if I'm on the go, it's usually not as extravagant. And like you said, I don't need everybody at the airport knowing like what's going on in this book. So a lot of times, especially if it's like something spicy, it's probably on my phone.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. A couple years ago, I was at the stupidly, I'm like shaking my head at myself. I was really burnt out and had chest pains, and so I went to the hospital
Mm.
because anxiety, hello. And even, like, the doctor was a younger doctor, and she was like, "So do you know about anxiety?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm aware, thank you." She's like
Do you know about it?
like "Yeah." She's like, "You need to dial it back." And I was like, "Thanks." But I'm sitting there waiting to be seen, and there's this lady next to me, and I've got my Kindle with me, and I now have lots of stickers on the back that are, like, clearly not like, y'all don't need to know what's in here, but y'all can guess, right? What's in here. And she looks over at me, and I live in the Bible Belt, and she was like, "Are you reading the Bible?" And I was like, "No." Like, what?
My face. Why would she ask you that?
Like, no. That is not the kind of stuff I read in my book,
Are there
in my
people
Kindle.
that read the Bible on their Kindle? Like,
To each their own.
yeah,
But yeah, so
that's true.
they
Okay.
don't need to know what I'm reading. But lately, I've kind of been almost just to, like, push the button a little bit, especially since living around the Bible Belt. And, I mean, there's, like, literally 5 churches in a 1-mile radius anyway from me, and thankfully, it's a little less conservative even with all the churches because I live right outside of one of the bases, the military bases. And so there's a lot of military families, and they come and go depending on where they're stationed. And so lately I've been a lot of my queer books that I'm reading physical copies of, I will bring with me and be like, clearly reading to women, and I do not care. Like, y'all go see.
Right,
And like, I will own it.
right.
And so that's something I've been kind of like pushing the button a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if I'm reading about, like, I was telling a friend about the book Jumping the Shark by Ash Raven, which is like, this chick is definitely screwing a shark. Like, I won't do that to myself.
I love it. And it's so funny because, like, the book girlies that get it, like,
Yep.
you and then the rest of the world is just like, "What is this?"
Yep. Yeah.
Once, like, we were somewhere and I'd, like, click on my Kindle app, and my husband's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, this is Ice Planet Barbarians." And he's like, "Is that an alien?" I'm like, "Yeah." You know, like,
Yep.
everybody doesn't have to know about this. However, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I feel like my husband constantly I'll be like, "Babe, I read this book. I gotta tell you about it." And he's like, "Oh my god, please don't." He's just like, "Oh, no." And I'm like, "No, but, like, I gotta tell you about this because nobody's gonna understand." I'm like, "Yes, the bookish community does." But even some of those, I'm like, I don't even want them to know that I'm reading this sometimes. Like, put some respect on my name. Like
Right. You know where I messed up? When I first started my book Instagram, I was like, "Yeah, this is fun." And I just, like, shared stuff, and then people I worked with started following me. I'm like, "I did not think this through." Or, like, I have family that follows me. I'm like, "Listen, at this point, I'm just gonna do me, and you came here. I did
Yes.
not really invite you." Like, I don't know how we got to this point.
Yep. Oh my goodness, it's like I was talking to my mother-in-law on our holiday. We do a holiday with her, like a family vacation. I just call it a trip. It's not a vacation, kids are involved, right? Like, it is not a vacation. And so we go on this trip with her every year in June, and I was talking about these romance books I was reading because I had, like, 5 that I brought with me because who knows how many books I'm gonna read in a week, even though I have my Kindle
Right.
and my phone is anyway, y'all know the
We need
struggle.
options.
And so her boyfriend was like, "Oh, you're just reading smut, like, that's just porn," and my husband goes, "I don't care, I'm benefiting, like, she can read whatever the hell she wants to read." And I'm like, "Everybody just stop, go away. Just get out of here, like, that's your
Like, leave me
mother. What
alone.
is wrong with you?"
I didn't think about that part.
So, his mother's just standing there like, "Okay, that's" I mean, we got 2 kids, y'all know what happened, like
Right. I just love that your husband stood up for you, though,
yeah.
because some people just they don't get it. And mom would definitely stand up for me, but at the same time, he's like, "I don't know how you read this." My favorite thing to do is just bring him a book and, like, no context, and I'm like, "Here you go," and he'll read it, and he'll, like, read 2 lines and just give it back to me, like, "You didn't even finish it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I didn't."
Yeah.
I saw enough.
Yep.
I'm like, "Wow."
So I'm curious,
No,
like,
no.
does your husband read as well, and what does that kind of, like, dynamic look like for you guys?
He says he's not a reader because he solely does audiobooks, but I'm telling him, I'm like, "Audiobooks, that is reading." But he is pretty much exclusively a self-help guy. Like, I there was a graphic, it's like 50 self-help books that you should read, and he's, like, counting all the ones that he read, and it was most of them.
Aw.
And, like, I'll do something like you mentioned anxiety, like, having these things, and he's like, "Oh, I have a book you should read for that." And I'm like, I'll just silently struggle,
Right?
like, it's fine. Like, there have been a few that he's talked me into, but typically, no. He will read some books that I recommend. So it's funny getting him into, like, these different things because it's just not his comfort zone. But yeah, that is an audiobook king. He actually got me into audiobooks. Like, I didn't read any at first, and he's like, "No, you should do this." And he got me into reading a self-help book of all things. But we do have, like, some content, like, we'll I just talk about different books that we've read and stuff. And so, yeah, it's fun. But yeah, he's the audiobook king.
I love that, yeah, my husband reads mostly middle school books just because those are the stories he likes and he enjoys, and, like, I do not shame him at all, like, that he's shopping in the kids
Mm.
section at Barnes& and Noble, like, I do not care. And I'm constantly like, "Read what you want, read what you enjoy, do you, boo?"
Right.
Like and so he's like right now he's reading I wanna say it's The Orphans and the Ogress, or The Ogress and the Orphans, or something like that, and he's like, "I swear this guy's a dragon, like, I know the mayor's a dragon." I was like, "Did you find out yet?" And he's like, "No, but, like, he's super suspicious, and they're, like, skinwalkers, and it's whole like, it's this whole thing." And so, like, I think it's
Yes.
just so fun to, like, hear him excited about reading as an adult, but, like, reading what he enjoys, and then
Right.
also being able to use that with our kids to, like, show that you can read whatever you want and still enjoy it. So if people are like, "Yes, I need to check out the annotation kits. I wanna check out your Instagram," where can people find you, get to know you, hang out with you, all that fun stuff?
Absolutely. So I'm Books with Dash on Instagram. There's a period between books and with. And then Etsy is also Books with Dash. So on Instagram, it's mostly like fun stuff. Like I share kind of like behind the scenes, but also a lot of like just reviews, recommendations, a lot of book content. And then on Etsy, I have the annotation kits for sale, but I also annotate books for people. So currently I have, well, as of now, I have 8 books that are ready to go. And they're like books that I love that I've like written in on margins, tabbed, added, all the things too that people can buy. Or you can do like just a kit where you can try it out yourself. And then I also have like stickers and other fun stuff. And I've also started a little bit on YouTube. Props to you because long form content is a like such a different thing than short form. I'm so new to it and like I'm so used to like short, making it fast, like cutting all the little lulls, making it there's like 10, 20-second little piece and like now having to like edit long videos. That's hard. But also books with Deshea on there too. And I'm showing more like behind the scenes. Like I actually just for the people that can see on YouTube, I just made well, I'm currently working on a vlog that shows like me getting my office together and like my journey as becoming a new small business owner. So yeah, you can find me in all those places.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that we have those linked in the show notes, YouTube description, all the places. So if y'all are watching while doing other things or listening while, I don't know, I used to listen to podcasts in the shower. So like, do you boo, wherever you are listening, we got those links for you as well. That way you can make sure to grab those and check out Deshea's Etsy, YouTube, all of that. Thank you so much for being on. I so appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.